Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. So thank you all for joining us today. Really excited to be here to talk to you about the Community Scholars Program. I know some of you joined for a session earlier this year, but for those of you who are new, we're happy to have you here. So my name is Maribel Lomeli, and I am the Senior Admission Counselor at TCU, and I am pretty much the project manager of the Community Scholars Program. So I look at everyone from all schools, and I'm also the admission counselor for your school specifically. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the presentation and give you some updates on things that are going on right now and what we're doing this year with everything being virtual, and we know that things are going to look a little different. So I'll go through that, and then at the end I'll leave plenty of time for you to ask me any questions and for us to just chat, and just know that we're available to answer any questions at all times during the year. I'll give you my contact information at the end, and we'll go from there. So the Community Scholars Program, for those who don't know much about it, it is a full ride scholarship to TCU. So if you are interested in attending TCU, this is a really great program to do so. So we have 13 public high schools where we recruit our students for that full ride scholarship. So full ride does include tuition and fees, your room and board, dining plan, and also books. And it also includes a opportunity for you to study abroad during the semester while you are at TCU. So it's a really great program for TCU. So this year, some of the important dates that we have for the program are listed here. And again, I'll at the end, I'm going to go through our new website. We actually have a new website where we have all this information as well. But when it comes to Community Scholars Program, there are important dates that you need to know. Our application is due on November 1. So we are at that early action deadline. So November 1 is about, a month and a half away from now. So you do have some time to finish your application. You can choose any application that you'd like. We do have, we are on Apply Texas, the Common Application, we're on the Coalition app, and TCU does have their own website as well. So choose whatever application you want. It does not matter, but as long as you complete it by November 1. So what completed means that you have to have everything in by November 1, not just the application. That means all of your forms, all of your recommendation letters, your essays, your financial aid information, everything. And so that's the important part, is the financial aid forms are due as well on November 1. So that is the CSS profile and the FAFSA. So we need both of those forms to be completed by November 1 as well if you want to be considered for the program. So both of the applications are actually opening up here soon. So as soon as they open up, start working on them, because some of them do take a little bit longer. And if you're the first student to go to college in your family, your parents might need a little more time to get their forms in order. So just make sure that you get those done. But again, those financial aid forms are really important, and we do need them by November 1 as well. And so once you apply by November 1 deadline, it's kind of a waiting game because you are kind of just waiting to find out if you have been admitted to TCU, because that's the first step. Students who find out if they're admitted to TCU will find out by January 1. Usually our notifications come out by Christmas time. So usually by Christmas, you'll know whether or not you've been admitted to TCU. And so obviously you need to be admitted to TCU to move on to the next round to be considered for community scholars. So those of you who do get admitted by early action deadline, then in January you'll find out if you have been selected as a semifinalist. So those who are selected as semifinalists in January, we will schedule a interview with you. And so most likely that's going to be virtual, just with everything that's been going on, and knowing that most schools are going to be virtual. For us right now, we are planning on doing that virtually. But if anything changes, we'll make sure to let everyone know ahead of time. But just know that in January, you will have that first round of interview. And that'll be with myself, a few other admission counselors, and it's going to be Ms. Tamika Gordon, who is in charge of the Community Scholars Program at TCU, and a few of her staff. So it'll be anywhere from 3 to 4 people on your interview panel, and that's just going to be the first round. And then from there, you come in February, and to February 24th is the day of our scholarship finalist dinner. That's actually on our campus. So it's a really exciting day. We're hoping that this still goes through and we are able to have this dinner. And again, everything is just tentative right now. These are our plans. And of course, we have other plans just in case it doesn't go through. But know that February 24th is the day that we have scheduled for the dinner. And then the 25th, you come back, and that's the day of your on-campus interview. So your on-campus interview is going to be 2 interview panels with people from TCU. You'll have some faculty, staff, some community leaders, alumni, community scholar alumni, TCU alumni, just a lot of different people who are wanting to be a part of this experience. You interview with them, and then on the 26th, we have a program called Experience TCU, and this part is optional. Some students like to come back and do that program with us. And again, that's just an optional part. It's just for you to learn a little more about TCU and what we have to offer. And then again, it's a little bit of a waiting game as well, because you find out if you're notified, you get notified if you have been awarded the scholarship by March. So in March, we are able to let you know who is all going to be selected as finalists. So these are the important dates. Again, these are on our website, which I will show you at the end. So you don't have to write anything down. Everything is available online. I just wanted to go through them with you. And as far as what you need for your application, this is a list of everything that is on the application that you need to have. So of course, your TCU application is important, but the application does include application essays. So you need 1 essay to be part of your TCU application. SAT and ACT scores, TCU is actually going test optional for this year. So if you do not want to submit your test scores, you do not have to. That is optional. So what that means is that students who do select to send your test scores, it can only help you. It won't hurt you. And if you don't select to submit your test scores, it's not going to hurt you either. So it's really up to the student whether or not they want to submit those test scores. And then your transcript, of course, then make sure that includes your class rank, 1 teacher, 1 counselor recommendation, your CSS profile, and the FAFSA like we just talked about. And then this part at the very bottom, the TCU Community Scholars Application Essay. So that's a second essay. So not only do you need your TCU essay, but you also need a Community Scholars essay. And that essay is going to be here, what we see here, it's going to be a 300 to 400 word essay. So the way that you can submit it is you can actually log into your My TCU portal and click on the Community Scholars link, and that's where it'll let you upload it. Or you can also send it to myself, or if you want to send it to frogmail@tcu.edu. Either way, it does not matter as long as it gets on your application. That's all that we care about. And so you actually get to choose which prompt you want to use. And the first one is, what impact do you hope to have on the TCU campus or in your community community if you are chosen as a community scholar? And then how have you grown or changed from your freshman year of high school to now? So again, your choice, which one you want to choose. Just submit the application essay and this essay, so 2 essays. And so let me go through and show you our new website, which again, it has everything on there. Since this year we're not able to visit you in person, we wanted to make sure that everything was online. Usually what we do is we have a brochure that we're able to send to our students, and this year we're not able to do that. So I'm going to also drop this in the chat. And that is our website. But again, here is everything that you need to know, everything that we just went over. Here are the important dates in detail again. Tells you everything that you need to know. Your checklist is all here as well. Again, everything that you need to know, what we just went over. It explains everything that we just talked about. And at the bottom, it has the TCU Community Scholars essay. Here are the essay prompts. Again, gives you the instructions on how to log on to your portal and where to submit. And then my contact information is here at the bottom. Make sure that you're able to contact me. You can use this Community Scholars email or my email. It does not matter. Both of them are going to be checked regularly. And then this is our phone number here as well. So this website is really important because, again, it just is able to give you all that information that you need as far as questions that you may have or how to actually apply for the program and what you need to do. So that is some of the big things about the program. And so now I wanted to give y'all time because I know several of y'all have questions. So if y'all could please either send your questions in the chat or let me know what questions you have. I know there's a lot of people on the call, so in order for everyone to not talk all at once, if you can just drop your questions in the chat and then I can answer them that way. Let me check the chat right now. Okay, so I don't have any questions yet. So again, students, use the chat option to ask any questions that you may have.
I think I saw some parents on here as well. So parents, please feel free to ask questions in the chat as well. Maribel, could you go back and talk about the CSS profile and the need to complete that and FAFSA? Because I think students and parents kind of get confused because once they submit the FAFSA, they're like, what is a CSS profile? And I have information in the chat. I think that's a big piece of the application that students tend to.
Yeah, this is only our second year that we've been requiring it by November 1, so that's why it's a bit new for us as well. And the CSS profile, you don't need that for every school that you apply to. So again, if you're applying to other schools, you may not require the CSS profile. But yeah, the CSS profile, the link that was dropped in the chat, the cssprofile.collegeboard.org, that is where you go to create that CSS profile. And it is in the same website that you use for your SAT, your AP exams, all of that. And so, yeah, we need the CSS profile to be completed by November 1 and the FAFSA as well. The CSS profile does take a little bit longer because it is a bit longer to complete. And some students may have some other circumstances where they may need to get other forms for that part, or maybe something else that they need on their CSS profile, and all of that does need to be completed by that November 1 deadline. So what I always tell my families and students is, even if you're not finished with your TCU application, go ahead and start your CSS profile and FAFSA, because you don't need to have your application completed to have those two financial aid forms done. So I would always tell students and parents, go ahead and start working on that CSS profile and FAFSA, even if you're not done with your TCU application, because since they are really important, it's better to just have them done as soon as you can. And for students, know that once you submit your application, it doesn't mean that you have to submit your application and have everything done then and there at that one exact moment. If you submit your application one day and then you send us your other forms as they come, that's acceptable as well. We are able to complete your application that way. Just make sure you're sending your forms to our FrogMail website, or to our FrogMail email, I should say, because that's the best way to send us any information that you may have for your application.
Thank you, Maribel. And I do want to point out that you can start the CSS profile now. FAFSA doesn't open until October 1st, but you plus only one of your parents needs an FSA ID. So if you have not created your FSA ID at this point, please go ahead and do that as soon as we get off the call or before the day is over with. That is crucial because you need it to get into your FAFSA application. Ms. Burrows, I saw that you dropped in the chat about the counselor recommendation. Could you please speak on that?
Okay, so the deadline for all seniors to request a counselor letter of recommendation for TCU for any November 1st deadline is going to be next Thursday, September 24th. Early college, we have a request for letter of recommendation link that we'll send out Friday. I'm not sure what the other counselors are doing, but just email Ms. Brown and she will send you, or she will email Ms. Brown for your letter of recommendation. She'll send you the brag sheet as well. If you apply to TCU, we will submit your official transcript to TCU along with the schedule and your counselor letter of recommendation. So Ms. Jackson just put the brag sheet in the chat.
So please take a moment to maybe copy and paste this over to your notes or your, if you're on a computer, maybe a Word document, because you will need these links. And students who may have come in later, please sign in using the link that Ms. Terry and myself provided at the very beginning. Ms. Terry, could you share that one more time so that it's fresh on the chat? Also, I hope most of you found out about this meeting on the Instagram or maybe something Dr. McBride sent out. But either way, follow the Go Center for follow the Go Center Instagram for updates. So I won't take up too much more time talking about what's in the chat because I want to make sure your questions are answered. So does any parents or students on the call have questions for Maribel? Because she is the direct contact between you and TCU. And Maribel, you were a community scholar yourself, correct?
Yeah. So I was a part of the program when I was at TCU. So I do have some experience of being a part of the program too that I can talk about. And let's see, I just got a chat question. If I'm using the Common App to apply to TCU, do I just select the Community Scholars waiver to apply to the Community Scholars program? That's a great question. So you don't have to select any sort of waiver or anything when it comes to getting your application fee waived. It already gets waived for you. So if you do use the Common App, just make sure you do select that waiver, and then it won't ask you anything else. It'll just say your fee has been waived. If it doesn't work for you, make sure you send me an email and I'll make sure to waive it on there, but for the most part, it waives it automatically. One of the questions that we always get from students and parents is they want to know, what can I do to make myself a more competitive applicant, or what can I do to make myself stand out, or what is it that you're actually looking for in a community scholar? So those are all great questions, and the truth is, for most students, what I always tell them is, we're not looking for you to be like any other student. We're not saying that this is what a community scholar is and everyone has to be this sort of community scholar. We want to know about you and who you are specifically. So there's really not anything that you have to do that makes yourself look any better than anyone else. And what I mean by that is we're not saying, okay, if you're not like this student, we're not even going to look at you, or you shouldn't be a community scholar, because the truth is community scholars look like several different students. I mean, if you know any community scholars from your school previously, you would see that everyone is a bit different. They have different things that they are a part of, different things that they're passionate about, different aspirations. I mean, everyone is just a different type of student. So it doesn't mean that you have to be that specific student to be a community scholar. For us, it's we want you to brag about yourself and show us who you are and why you would be a good student at TCU and a community scholar. So don't worry too much about making yourself be like everyone else. Just make yourself be the best person that you already are and show us why that person deserves to be a community scholar.
Oh, Lord.
Any other questions that I can answer for y'all? This is a great time to get all those questions answered in front of everyone. You may think that you have a question that no one else does, but I bet you someone else does as well.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Where do we turn in our FAFSA and CSS profiles?
So that is all online. So the CSS profile and the FAFSA is an online application. So once you complete it, at the very end, it'll ask you what schools you want to send your application to. And as long as you select TCU, it'll get sent to us automatically.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And Javon, it's in the chat. I just posted it again. So that's why I was saying copy the links, because it'll take you straight to that CSS profile, which is powered through College Board, as well as the FSA ID that you and your parent, one of your parents, will need to complete the FAFSA. So it's all in the chat.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have any other questions? As Maribel stated, this is the best time to get your questions answered. Not saying that you can't email myself or Ms. Terry or anyone else on the call regarding your questions, but now is a great time to get those questions answered, because Maribel, again, is a direct source to TCU. So if you have any questions, please ask them now.
I'm sorry, I have a question.
Yeah.
I'm at work and I'm trying to do the Zoom call. My son is in football practice. So what's the difference between the CSS and the regular financial aid paperwork?
Yeah, so the CSS profile is an application that mostly private schools use it. Some of the big public schools use it as well, but for the most part, mostly private schools are the ones that use it. And that is just another picture for us to look at your financial situation in your family, as well as the FAFSA. So for us at TCU, we use the CSS profile to give out that institutional aid. Since we are a private school, our institutional aid comes from the CSS profile, and that's why we require it, because that's how we're able to see a bigger picture of what your family situation is and how much aid you're able to get from TCU directly. Whereas the FAFSA, that money is usually the money that comes from state or our government as well. So that's kind of the difference between the two.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And students, I do want to point out that it does say fall 2021, spring 2022. Do not submit any applications that say 2020, 2021, because that is for the class of 2020 that just graduated. So all of your things will say 21 to 22. If
I'm gonna put the website one more time down here, so that way everyone has it again.
Thank you, Maribel. And so before I end the call, I just wanted to make sure that no one had any last questions. And again, students that just joined or have not signed in, please use the sign in link to sign in. At this time, I will end the recording.